Hey, and welcome back to another season of Love Restore. I'm your favorite host, Marshaun Olaniyan. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule whenever you are watching this, whether you're watching it live and or later on. Thank you so much for being here. Again, this is Love Restore, and you are listening to and or watching this via KCCR Brownstone Cityscapes Radio. So thank you so much for being here. Share this with a friend or family member that you know who needs to engage in becoming better. This first part of the season, we are talking about you, sis. We're talking about how to make you better. We're talking about powerful women, Black women specifically, as well as your softness. I am creating this series because I want to help you to understand that not only can you be in a powerful position as a leader in your career or on your job, you can also understand that you can be soft and bring your softness and show up in your softness, show up in your vulnerability within your love life and in your relationships, and understanding that both of those worlds can come together and coexist within yourself. So for this next 30 minutes, we're talking about the Black women stereotype and going through that for the next 4 weeks. We're going to talk about the undertones of Black women in survival mode and who taught us that. And so underneath that today, we're going to be talking about the price of the mask that you wear when survival mode becomes your default. Now, many of us have led with strength, resilience, and sharp edges just to survive. I understand this completely. But what happens when survival mode is the only mode that you show up and showcase, including but not limited to in your love life? That is what I want to talk about a little bit deeper here today, because research has actually shown that 74%, yes, that's right, 74% of Black women agree that they often feel pressure to be everything for everyone, both in their professional lives as well as in their personal lives. And so this superwoman pressure directly fuels staying in boss mode even after hours. So what if constantly staying in boss mode is actually blocking the love that you want? What if constantly staying in your boss mode arena after hours, after you clock out, after you have walked away for the day, but you stay in boss mode, you stay in planning mode, you stay in delegation mode, you stay there instead of being able to relax? What if constantly staying there is blocking the love that you say that you want and or need in your life? So we're going to talk through several of these things and why some of these things may be happening, as well as how to turn the corner in this. So one of the first things that I want to address is the script, the survival script that we have learned specifically as Black women, which is don't let them see you sweat, baby. And I said that on purpose in that voice because a lot of times we got this particular programming from our parents and our guardian. And I really want to say specifically from the woman in your life, the parent woman, right? Your mother, right? Or the mother figure in your life. Don't let them see you sweat. And on your job and in your career, that is something very powerful. It is something that is allowing you to get to the next level, right? It's allowing you to get the raise. It's also allowing you or allowed you to get the degree that help you to make the money that you're currently making, that help you to attain the powerful position that you're actually in. All of that's fine and dandy. But sis, can I just lend some words? In your love life, that masculine energy, that mask that you wear, where you're not able to allow your guard to be let down, is hindering. Yes, I'm saying it is hindering you. It's not even something that I have to think about. It is hindering you, because if you take those same skill sets to your love life, in your love life, trying to control the relationship, control the outcome of the conversation, control every aspect of the relationship, such as you having to plan the dates, you having to make all the travel plans, you having to just control every aspect of your relationship. When that happens, you have your masculine energy showing up as well as your partner's masculine energy. And the reason why there is a breakdown in a relationship and where the two of you are seeming like you at odds or at each other's throats all the time is because there is no feminine energy in your relationship. So in order to bring feminine energy into your relationship, you have to be willing to lean back. Allow the lead to be taken by your male counterpart. And I'm not even saying in all of the areas of your relationship, because the truth of the matter is this. There may be areas where you are very, very strong at, and there are areas that you are weaker at, or even very weak at. The point is, the areas in which you are weaker, your weakness, your strengths are not there. Those are the areas I want you to be open to releasing. Right. So I know that a lot of times when we're talking about relationships, most of the time we think about the standardized versions of feminine roles and masculine roles. However, I really want to shift that, because what works for my relationship may not work for your relationship, and vice versa. So if you're very strong at managing the finances and your partner, your male counterpart, is weaker in that area, that should be an area in which you take over, you control, because that is your area of strength. That is your partner's area of weakness. And together, the two of you can get to the next level in your finances based off of you taking control in that area, right? However, if you feel that you have to control and plan and take over every area of the relationship, that's where you get into trouble. So as much as you don't want to allow your counterparts at work, and maybe even your boss and people that don't look like you, never let them see you sweat. I get that at work. But in your love life, you should be allowed, your partner should be allowed to see you sweat. Your partner should have access to that very sacred part of you. They should be allowed to see you vulnerable and cry sometimes if you must, and ask for help if you must. And, just being softer to say, I had a very bad day today. I mean, it could be very simple as that. Some women that I coach have a hard time even saying that they had a bad day, and or everything is always all right. And I'm using air quotes for those who are listening to me, because nobody is always all the time all right. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be in your softer arena to receive. Because when you do that, you are opening up the door and allowing the connection to happen between you and your partner. That is what is going to strengthen your emotional intimacy within your relationship. And also, guess what? Now your partner is realizing, okay, this is how I can support her. She is this boss. She does have, people underneath her that are answering to her on the job and everything. And it's not to say that I'm requesting that you just throw all of that out of the window once you come into the home, once you're with your spouse or partner. No, it's realizing when to lean into your areas of the areas of your strength, and when to lean back. Now, if both of you are really strong in all areas, or I should say the majority of areas, or all of the areas that both of you are strong in, and then you're as equally weak in several other areas, then a different plan needs to come up for your relationship. The point of it is to be able to evaluate your relationship, understand what your strengths are, understand what your weaknesses are. So when it's time to talk about what your relationship is going to look like and how you cannot be in control of everything, so you can soften and show up in your softness and show up in your vulnerability and be able to receive compliments and be able to receive support, then you should be able to do that. So that don't let them see you sweat was more designed for career and people that don't look like you, people that want to try to make you seem more inferior to them. I got it. Do that. But that's job, that's career related. That is not in your romantic relationships. And honestly, in any of your relationships that you consider close to your heart, these people over here should have privy to the real you, taking off that mask. Okay, another area is how high functioning, high achieving Black women normalize stress and emotional suppression. Anytime you are in a stressful situation, day in and day out, day in and day out. Now that becomes chronic. I'm not, because I always get acute and chronic mixed up, but I'm pretty sure it's chronic stress. The point is, at some point, that is going to show up in your life, and it's going to come out in some form of you. And most people look at this as a disease or a dis-ease within your body. It doesn't matter how it shows up. A lot of people like have panic attacks. You could have a heart attack. You could end up in the hospital from one of the two that I just mentioned. It could show up in the form of just always being sick, period. Like there is some type of dis-ease within your body. And so at some point, your body is going to relinquish that. It has to be able to get rid of all of this dis-ease, and your body has to be able to start fighting the disease off of you. So normalizing stress. Nobody is supposed to be in a state of stress day in and day out. No, nobody. Which leads me into your emotional suppression, because then you're feeling like, well, I got this. Everything about this I got. I don't need no help. And this is what I found, that a lot of high-powered Black women specifically, we have a tendency to do this because we've seen our mothers and our grandmothers and our aunties take on all of these roles and become the superwoman to us. And the reality is most of them were really stressed out, and they didn't feel like they could allow their guard down to be receptive to the help. So they had to become and stay in that boss mode, that leadership role, keeping on the mask, right? So they had to, all of that, what do they call it? That mushy, emotional stuff that I hear people say, they had to keep all of that at bay so they were able to live another day, right? And so you have to be able to lean into your emotions and stop suppressing them, because again, as I just talked about earlier about the dis-ease, is going to show up in some form. So you have to be willing to release and relinquish some of that stuff. And a lot of this has to do with, especially if you are in a romantic relationship, allowing your to have these in-depth conversations so you can relinquish. And if you want to call it delegate, do that, but relinquish some of these things, get them off of your plate, ask for help. Have conversations to see how the two of you can come together, work together, compromise. So it's not all on you. The onus is not all on you to not only be the powerhouse at work and be that powerhouse in your home, especially when you have a spouse there and or older children that can also take some of this stuff off your plate. You don't have to worry about doing everything, cleaning, cooking, all of the things, washing clothes, making sure all of the domestic things are taken care of, especially when you can ask for help. But sometimes we feel like we can't and or don't want to for fear of looking a certain way. In this case, looking weak, for lack of a better term, looking weak. All right. So now the next thing I want to talk about is the misconception that softness makes you weak. That softness makes you weak. The opposite is actually true. Softness is your superpower. It really is, especially in your romantic relationships. Now, softness on your job can absolutely deter. Softness in your career is not going to get you further if you're not able to assert yourself and ask for the things that you want and need specifically in your career. But softness in your relationship looks different. You do have to still assert yourself when the time is there, right? You two are going at it. You know that you're right. Now, there is still a way to be soft and still have your partner hear you. Now, that's your communication style, that maybe you need to work on your communication style because you suck at communicating. Let's be real. But it's a little bit deeper than that, because When I talk to my clients, sometimes they think that just asking for help is a weakness, or literally feeling like they need to be vulnerable. And most of the time, vulnerability and crying kind of go hand in hand. And if your partner, let me ask you this. If your partner cannot see you cry and you feel comfortable, who else can you cry and be comfortable around that's supposed to have all of your back? Like, if you're not comfortable around the very person that you're saying I do to, and or if you haven't gotten married, that you want to spend the rest of your life with this person, or that you see a long-term future with this person, if they don't see you in a crying state, then I can tell you right now that relationship at some point is going to plateau and drop off, because the connection is in the deepness. The connection is in the asking for help. The connection is in the, I just need a hug today. It could be simple as that. You know what the connection is? And I need to vent. I do not want you to solve anything. I just need to get this out. I need a listening ear. I need a shoulder to cry on. Can you be that person? I don't need your help in solving this. It could be your communication style sucks, like I mentioned. So I just gave an example without even realizing how it's going to help, which is asking for help, right? Asking for help, or asking for a listening ear without asking for a listening ear, and making it plain that you're not asking for help. Because a lot of times we get frustrated because we think that our man just wants to solve everything. Well, baby, it is in their nature. It is innate for them to provide and protect and to want to solve the thing that is plaguing their baby. So if you don't want him to solve, you just need to vent. Here's where the communication comes in. You know what? I really want to have this conversation with you, but it's not really so much that I'm asking you to solve this or to, help go fight off X, Y, and Z. I just really need to get this out. Can you be a listening ear right now? So now he don't have to worry about what role he has to play. Oh, he just needs to listen. Okay, he ain't got to solve nothing for you. Because the truth of the matter is, the more that we speak about said issue in our lives, the solution usually reveals itself. And I want you to remember that for when you're having conversations with your spouse, because the more that the both of you talk about things, especially out loud to one another, the answers seem to already come. And or it could be a compromise depending on what the topic of conversation is in that moment, where it's like, okay, I'm willing to do this. And then your partner's like, you know what? I'm willing to do this. This is the compromise right here. And or you're giving him the instructions to say, okay, I know that I don't have to solve anything, and I can be clear and just listen to what she needs to say. I don't have to solve anything. Okay, cool. I can just be in the listening ear. So it may be a little bit of things, just understanding that your softness is not your weakness. Your softness is your superpower. And a lot of times we can say the exact same thing by using a different tone. And guess what? Because you're using a different tone, now the result has been, the result has shown up, and or the solution has shown up. The way that the two of you are handling said situation is different, which is a great thing. And this is actually what we are teaching. So I co-created a workshop series called Powerful at Work, Soft and Love workshop series with a leadership coach. And we're bringing leadership with Black women, as well as softness, and how the two can coexist within one another. And so if you're interested in that, I will leave a link down below. It is here live in San Diego at the end of July. If you want to save your seat, go ahead right now, because the room is starting to fill up. Go ahead and save your seat. The link is somewhere down below in the show notes. But I wanted to plug that here, because this is why this talk and this conversation is so important, because that is where the shift starts to happen, by understanding where you're at, and then how it's impacting your life, and then what the switch is. So we're talking about all of those things during Powerful at Work, Soft and Love workshop series. So absolutely go ahead and save your seat. Now back to this. The next thing is how survival mode shows up in your life as hyper independence. And I kind of said this a little bit earlier, which is you want to do everything by yourself. If you can't do it, you would rather find a way to do it, but there's no way you're thinking about asking for help because nobody can do it like you. Well, the truth of the matter is there is some truth to what you're saying. However, if the person that you are delegating this thing to can do it 80 to 90% of what you would do it, that is actually a win. That's actually a win. So don't worry about perfection and them not being able to do it your way. Also understanding that there are many ways to get a result. It's not just from A to B. It could be from A to B to C to D, or A to C, or A times. Well, the point is, it doesn't only have to be your way or the highway. There are plenty of things that you can incorporate in and plenty of ways to go about getting the same result, which is the solution, which is the answer, which is what you really want. And it also allows you to be able to relax into your feminine. Relax a little bit more, laugh a bit more, be more playful, being able to allow your guard to be down so the seriousness and the heaviness of your career can be switched off when it comes to your love life, right? So some of those masculine skills that you have to have in your powerful position on your job and in your career is a must there. They're not a must over here. There has to be feminine energy and masculine energy or polarity within the relationship in order for the relationship to stay and be healthy. It doesn't say, research doesn't show that the woman must do domestic duties and the man must do the financial. It doesn't break it down like that. However, there needs to be masculine and there needs to be feminine. And just in case you don't know, each of us have both. Each of us have masculine traits and each of us have feminine traits. It's just a matter of which area they need to show up in. That's it. So it's understanding that you have control, you and your partner have control of how, which ones are strengths in your world and which ones look like weaknesses in your world, and the same for your partner. Which ones look like strength, which ones look like weaknesses. And then the two of you can mold the relationship the way that the two of you want your relationship to be. Right? So you don't have to do it all by yourself. Being a part of a partnership. That's the whole point. It is, you are a part of a relationship. You are a piece in the relationship. You are not the entirety of the relationship. So we have to pull away from thinking that everything that has to be done in the relationship has to be done by me, or it won't be done right, or it won't be done at all. Some of these things we put on ourselves. They're self-imposed torture that we put on ourselves because we're trying to do everything when we have help in the house. We just have to be able to use this in a correct way in order to get and receive said help that we need. The next thing is burnout, right? Burnout doesn't just happen at work. It happens in our hearts. It happens being on the merry-go-round time and time again. It happens because we are unaware or just not aware. Well, I guess unaware and not aware is the same. Not aware of how we are presenting ourselves, which is why we are on multiple dating sites. You don't have an issue with getting the man or being attracted to. The issue is beyond that. The issue is deeper. And I want to point it out to you. The issue is not that you cannot attract a mate. The issue is that you cannot keep a mate. I know I might have punched somebody in the head with that one. But I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time that you really understood how you are presenting, how you show up in your relationship? Did anybody ever tell you how you were presenting? And it could be in subtle ways. It might not be all in your face all at one time, but just think about some of the relationships that you have been in. What were his complaints about you? You're too controlling. I don't feel like I have a place here. Like that might be too much masculine, right? You feel like you need to control everything. You're not my mom. Like, thinking about some of the things that your ex-partners brought to the surface that may have stung at the heart, those are the things that you need to lean into. Those are your areas of weakness. Those are your areas where you are not connecting with your spouse. This and those are your areas of why you can't keep a partner. You have no problems attracting. The problem is keeping them around, because you may be unaware of how you are presenting and or your beliefs about men, your beliefs about relationships, your beliefs about your life and what it's going to look like. Our beliefs help us in shaping the world that we are a part of. So if your belief is that all men cheat, guess what? You're going to keep meeting men that cheat, because your brain is called your reticular activating system, or RAS. It wants to see you win. It wants to help you win. So your beliefs about men, whatever they are, you will attract those men. The beliefs about yourself, I'm too ugly, I'm too fat, nobody's going to love me. All of those things will keep playing in your head. And guess what? Those insecurities at some point are going to show up in your relationship. So we have to be willing to invest and work on ourselves in these particular areas. You know, I like to talk to when I'm sitting down with the potential client and we're going over, and she may say something like, well, I've never invested this type of money on myself. And I'm like, well, actually you have, just not in this area. Because the women that I work with, I'll say high 90 something % of them have degrees, and most of them with the degrees have the student loans behind them, right? So you have invested a significant amount of money on yourself. You just did it for your career. You did it for the area of safety. You did it for the area of control. You knew that if I did A and B, I was going to get C. If I went to college these amount of years, I got this degree, I knew that I was going to be making this type of money, which is C. In love, it's a bit more risky. And so if you cannot control it, you don't want to risk it. So I get why you did it over here, but now you have to be willing to invest in yourself over here as well. Because again, you can be a powerhouse, but you also can be soft. And the two can be married within you. Understanding when to lean into one and when to step away from the other. How to turn things off and when to turn it back on, meaning your masculine energy. You need the need to turn it off within your relationship is high, again, in certain areas. It's not to say that we want you to get rid of all of your masculine traits, because the truth of the matter is it's impossible to do anyway. I just want you to be able to control them, be more aware of them and how you are presenting in your relationship, so you can be more understood, so the connection can be even deeper. So not only can you attract them, now you can keep the man that you want in your life. This is what we are teaching at Powerful at Work Soft at Love Workshop Series here live in San Diego, July 24th. Again, shameless plug to check out the link, save your seat there. We want to see you in the room, because when you're in the room, that is when your shift is going to change. to happen. That is where your awareness is going to happen. It's not that we're trying to completely change you into a different person. We just want you to be more aware, because once you are aware of how you are presenting, now you can start to work on these areas and build them up, become stronger in them, and realize that you can be a very beautiful powerhouse Black woman, as well as a very beautiful, soft, vulnerable woman with the right person by your side. I thank you so much for being here. Whenever you're watching and or listening to this, you are listening to KCCR Brownstone Cityscapes Radio. I am your host, Marshaun Olaniyan, and this is Love Restored. I love you guys, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And I will see you on the next episode, where we're going even deeper into Black women stereotypes and who taught us that. Bye-bye now.